Well, hello guys. My name is Paul, aka Modus, in case you already didn't know. And we are here. Can you say a modus in the deep bass boosted voice of the memes? A modus. Well, that wasn't really deep, but it'll have to do. A modus. All right. So welcome to this track breakdown, amazing track breakdown of Modus Displace from the Astral Realm EP that's coming this Friday, May 14th. Although because of a little bit of a distributing error, it won't be coming out on stores until the following day, Saturday. So you'll have to bear with that, sadly. But it will be in SoundCloud and my YouTube channel on Friday. We download on Friday, yeah. And Saturday on stores. If you want to listen to it through Spotify, you can also do that. I'm not see if I can reseat my webcam a little bit. Let's check that. That smells better actually. Yeah. I am mod.us. There you go. Sharks, you should apply for like a stream mod in my Twitch. So anyway, before we move on with this breakdown, I want to play the whole track once for you. So here's a friendly reminder to mute the live stream if you're watching it right now on my Discord. You should mute the live stream because I'm routing the audio through the mic input on Discord just so you don't hear it twice. So here goes the track. I want to play it once and then we'll get on to the whole breakdown stuff. part. All right. Those are some pretty cool gifts right there in the chat. Thank you all, guys. All right, so let's start from the beginning. So how did this song came to be, right? Literally, the way this song started was I was talking with Skybreak, and he sent me a sample of a growl that he had routed through 80 dispersers. And then I was like, you're fucking crazy. Like, whoever does that? And he sent me the sample, and I messed around with it, and I basically got the first 2 bars of the first growl. No, not that. This. That's the main idea that I got with it. In fact, it says untitled because this is bounced literally from like some processing that I did to the growl that he sent me. So if I try to find the sample from it, I believe it was somewhere here. 80 dispersed on 1 serum. So you see the similarity there, right? And then what I did here was I just did some processing, like, you know, some compression. Let's do 81 disperses instead of 80, and then some frequency shifting for the end of the drop, and then just some EQ and some filtering. And as you know, this is before I had Sooth, so I just had to, you know, just sort of like dip down the frequencies as I went. But anyway, we won't get to that now. We'll start from the beginning, like I said. Great sound. So basically what I did was just stack a bunch of like supernova samples, because here's the thing. This track is pretty much a demonstration of how just by using samples, and especially your own samples, you can speed up your workflow dramatically. Like you just get to spend less time just adjusting sounds and tweaking knobs, and more time actually turning your idea into a reality. So what I did here was I took multiple samples from my Supernova pack, which released last year. By the way, I'm working on another pack. It's called Hypernova. It's releasing sometime summer this year, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, I took a bunch of Supernova samples. And I've already been teasing the vocal from the very start, so you know. And then I've just been getting it here. So you know, it's that like vocal thing being teased from the very start. So the main motif, as you know, is this like 3-note. This being some sample of some bleeps and bloops. The sound comes from this. This is the full sample, by the way. Let's play it. Right, so it's got some interface and computer sounds that I just took. Some of these sounds I ended up using in last year's Stinger for my Twitch streams, and then I took it from there. And then I used some lower pitched versions of those sounds. So it's like doo-doo-doo, and then doo-doo-doo. So now it's the exact same as this, but just in a lower octave. So we're just establishing the main motif here. Doo-doo-doo. That's the thing. And then with some background atmospheres. Of course they're gated, because what's a modus track without gated atmospheres? Without gate, it sounds like this. Right? And then it's got a tiny bit of compression. And 2 EQs. One to boost air and, just we get rid of some of the most annoying frequencies, and then the other is for like more tone shaping. Right? And then a dedicated sidechain, because yes, I felt the need to add it, because there was some stuff that happened in the song that I just had to add like its own sidechain instance. Occasionally some effects. These are from Sharks, actually. These are glitch jams. Sharks sent me these, and I was like, I'm going to abuse these, right? I mean, this glitch is ages ago. Well, they're still holding up, because they're in my 2021 EP, so they're still holding up. That's great, They are still there. Using, once again, a frequency shifter, so it's not totally obvious that I'm ripping you off, basically. And then just some EQ to high pass the lows a tiny bit, and then we recover on the upper low end part of it for a tiny bit more punch after we basically lost all of the like bottom end. And then some more add-on effects. These are also from Supernova. And then some 808s. These are 2 layers, I believe. It's the 808 itself, which is from Serum. Come on, Serum, you can do this. This is actually a Cymatics patch. I never thought I'd say this, but Cymatics has one good patch. And then I have a deep pad layer, which is just a detune saw that has the bottom end cut, so it's just the upper harmonics, and it makes for this like very huge sound, but like with these like detuned futuristic harmonics. Futuristic harmonics. That's a thing, I guess. And then for the drums, let's see what I did here, because I have not touched this project in like a long time. So I gotta get back to the rhythm of things. So basically what I did here is just I used once again some kicks and hats from my Supernova pack. One did not require much processing, just some EQ. By the way, make sure if you're EQing drums, make sure they are 0 latency, natural phase, or minimum phase. Because if you use linear phase on drums, most likely they'll get pre-ringed, and that will make all sorts of artifacts that you really don't want in a sample that's very snappy and has a very defined, hit. And some reverse effects. This is just from like some sample that I had, and I took the reverse bit and just... I'm the one who shared it after Volume sent it to me. He's okay with sharing it. Yeah, he is okay. I think the first time he shared them was like, he shared them himself on the Sekai server, I believe. Well, that might not be the first time. That's just the first time I saw it. And some more rides. Supernova again. So, the more you can optimize and save time on things that are so trivial, like just a ride, the more time you can spend actually, getting your idea down. And then here, the final part of the main motif is just like these 2 chords, right? So A sharp, or in this case B flat major, and then A flat major. B flat, A flat. And it has the third and the fifth, so it's like a melody going up. And it also has this really beautiful thing. It's just so visually pleasing to look at. It's got like this 4-note melody going up, but it's also got this smaller, faster thing that like stems up, and it makes for this like thing where it like splits into two, and that's very visually pleasing. And it also sounds just right. So it sounds like it's starting slow, but then it like speeds up, and yeah, it just gets it gets there just in time. And that's how I bridge to the next 8-bar section. And here I'm going to repeat the motif from here, just frequency shifted. Let's see what the frequency shifter is doing. It's being automated. Exactly here. No, here. I just did some random automation. The one that I felt like it worked best. I just went for it. And then I just had to repeat the same intro, just adding more stuff, more layers, so that, well, it could actually build up the intro. So you know you've got these vocal chops already. And now I'm introducing the same samples that I used in the intro. These like doom, doom. I'm using them here too, just for familiarity purposes. So it sounds familiar to the intro, and it's like a callback to the intro. And then, for the final part of this intro, instead of doing it like as a minimal piano only thing, now we go full beans with the super sauce. Some glitches, some fills, and into the verse we go. And this is the second motif that's featured in this song, which is the build-up lead thing. How I did the lead is several layers, I believe. Yeah, it's 3 layers. So first is a layer from Harmer. That's just like incredibly distorted. You know, you're seeing it here. It's like super distorted. Got so much noise, but here it works. If it works, it works. And there's this thing which is literally a square wave with a pitch automation that goes really fast. And what it does is it makes the pitch go up and then down. Pew! So it goes for that like pew effect. So you're seeing it here. It makes this like pew, pew, right? Without it, it just sounds like a normal square wave. Just that it has some post-processing, like, you know, some EQ for some extra air. Another disperser because I love them, and then some OTT to beef up the sound instead of, which sounds a lot more lame. Right, and then some more EQ to just once again tone shape the things. And then the third element that goes into this is called wet lead build-up thing. That's how I name my stuff. This is something that I bounced, and I believe this is part of a pad from Bejeweled Twist, the game. Yes, I've sampled a lot of stuff from Bejeweled Twist, not just for my songs, but especially for the song in general. I used a lot of stuff from Bejeweled Twist because it just has like these very futuristic and beautiful sounds. Use that sound and play the Imperial March with that. No. that went wrong the first time. And all three layers, it goes like this. So when you combine them, you get the noisy nature of the noise lead, the pew of the square thing, and you get some more harmonics with this. So it, you know, helps make the sound more full. The mid bass, I believe, is just like some reeds. Yeah, this is actually the main sound in engine start. Let's see. So yeah, this is the main sound from engine start. That's another 2020 song of mine. I just reused it here as a reed instead of as a lead. And then for the piano, we did some more things. Just some bass chords. You know, lower octave, higher octave. And then we finally did some movements here. It needs to be 1 octave lower? I don't think we can do that. Because it only goes this low. There's no lower F. There's the lick. You happy? And then we got some super verb. Once again from Supernova. OTT to once again beef up the sound. We also cut some frequencies. Without it, it would sound like this. Which obviously sounds very mid-end and very muddy. And we also need to high pass that, of course. So we've cut a lot of the annoying frequencies out of the equation, like this, for example. Not that. Or this. They are all C's, I know, but those were like the most annoying frequencies out there. I've also got a filter that goes down on the long notes. The supporting instruments go down, like they are being low passed, so that the lead can stand out more. Some claps here to keep the rhythm going. And then of course the signature reverb swells from Toro Verb. Without the reverb swells, it would sound much less eventful. So cool, bro. So yeah, the reverb swells do a lot. It helps fill in the gaps in a very efficient way. And then, this is interesting because these two chords might be familiar to you. Not this one, these two. I tend to use these chords a lot recently, and they are the same chords from the transition from Oblivion to Sector 5 and from the Sector 5 VIP breakdown. So if we were to insert, if we were to drag and drop Sector 5 VIP into this project, you could hear the difference. Well, not the difference, the similarities rather. Let's insert it. The breakdown sounds like. It's got the same chords. So if you were to layer the melody, it would also work here, which is just a sign of continuity, right? Right. So in a way, it's a reference to a previous song of mine. So that might be just a sign of long-term storytelling with my discography. So, which is what I'm trying to aim for with this discography. Well, as a whole. And then some bridge. In the build-up, we are already going to tease the motif of the drop, which is just 4 triplets all the time. You'll see me using reverb in the build-ups a lot to create this like ambience of like mystery and just hype. Why did teasing become a standard? Because it sets up the action for later. And when you know there's something coming, you are more likely to stay there for it, right? And to stick to your headphones for it. Yeah. By building up so much tension, the release, when you release all that tension, it's so satisfying, right? That's a good way to put it. And another thing that will show up in the drop, this like 3-note, which shows up there. Right, so how I did these vocals is literally just ran the word displace through a text-to-speech. In fact, if I go to like some website, the website that I got these vocals from, and I type the word displace, it literally sounds like the raw version of that.
Displace.
Now I just I split the 3 syllables and I made it say displace. Right, and then I sampled the rest, and I resampled it into manipulator. Then I bounced it. It's not here in this project, the manipulator thing. It's in a separate one where I have all of my vocodex things. It's more of a it's sort of like a template where I can just drop any sample and have it automatically vocoded the way that I like it, and then I can just adjust. How do you even chop those TTS perfectly? I will tell you, when you cut them in the source, like in the raw material, it doesn't sound that great. Just that when you process it so much, the issue is just kind of like masked out. So yeah, you sort of have to design that with the foresight that when you're going to post-process, it's gonna get fixed. Right? And you can also make the TTS speed slower. But in most cases, making the TTS speed slower, it is just going to stretch it, which means you're going to get the same stretching algorithms that you would get if you were to just do that. Right? So yeah, I'm running that through a manipulator. I bounced it, and then I did another disperser because yes, a resonator on F1. Well, resonator. For added tonality. So without it, it would sound like this. So this will give it an additional layer. And then some EQ to take out the things that we really don't like the mod there at the 300. Nobody likes that. Go to hell, 300 hertz. And then the S's. Nobody liked that, so might as well just take it off. I hope it wasn't too loud on the Discord live. And then I run it through a slightly more conservative OTT. As you can see, it's not at 100%. It's still very aggressive, just not as much as I would do with like when I'm sound designing, where I'll just I'll crank it up all the way to 100. And then I layered the vocals with some pads to make it just that extra bit more tonal, and then the rees. And then some overtones for the vocals. This sounds much more close to the source material. It's being repitched with new tone. And I believe I'm also formant shifting these. So they sound more like instead of like so woman-like, right? So it sounds more robot-like. Robot. No, they're not. No, they're not made with serum snares. They are called that because in the same Edison instance, I bounced an A5 serum snare, which is the snare that I ended up using in this track, and then I removed the sample, but the Edison instance was the same, so it kept calling any subsequent samples A5 serum snare, like 7, 8, 9. That's why you're seeing these numbers there. So main drop. I've already talked about the main layer. It's just a slightly resampled version of the 80 dispersers in one serum thing that Skybreak sent my way. It just has a lot of punch. As you can see, the transient is very sharp. There's a lot of transient there. It is being compressed a tiny bit, but it still makes that punch. It's only being compressed like -5 dB, which is still like about here, so the transient is still very much above the rest of the sound. So without the compressor, it would peak much higher, and it wouldn't sound that much. Yeah, it wouldn't be that much of a difference. So here I will cut the peaks to prevent saturation and clipping later on in the process. It doesn't sound all that different. I'm just doing it with the foresight that I'm going to be mastering this later, and I wouldn't like it to peak too high. Alright, so that's one layer to it. More gated atmospheres, which if you remember, it's the same thing as here. It's the same sample, so yeah, that's the familiarity aspect of it, the similarities. What did you put through the dispersers? Basically everything. Yeah, and it also makes for this like slightly vocal element to it. Yeah, yeah, it's almost like say and then we have some rees here. Nice. So, you know, to complete the bass aspect of it. So it sounds more like a bass and less like a pluck. And with it, it gets all that girth. And then with the sub, you know, that's where I'm getting all of the power from. And then at the start of every phrase, I'm using an ARP doing triplets, of course, because this song is in triplets. So. And each time the ARP is going up, so it starts like this, but then it goes further up. So it's going to develop as the drop goes on, right? And then some shenanigans thrown in there to just fill in the gaps. And some of the bloops from before. And they also make it sound like very computer-like, which I like about this song. Boom. And some more glitches from Sharks. You saw it there. And then a different rhythm to, you know, we change up things before we move on to the next batch, to the next 8 bars. So it's like phrase 1, phrase 2, phrase 3, and then phrase 4. Phrase 4 is meant to be a bridge between the first half and the second half. So now the chords go slightly up. So instead of doing a 7th here, they switch to doing a 9th. How did you process the sub? Let's go. The sub is basically 2 layers. One of them is the sine wave. Well, there has to be a sine wave as a sub. It's a sine wave with square harmonics with detuned saw harmonics. So basically what I'm doing here is, in the same patch, I'm layering both a pure sine wave with square harmonics and also a detuned Reese pad of sorts. And then I'm high passing both the square and the saw so they don't get in the way of the sub. This way I can have both even and odd harmonics in the same patch. They're not going to create any problems with each other. They're not going to conflict, and they will just sum up and they'll make for this like very rich sound, right? So you still have that underlying sine wave tone. By the way, I probably shouldn't have high passed that. This is just a sign that I was still doing this in like the final stages of lockdown. And in 2020, I didn't know, well, I still did not know as well how EQ worked with phase, so I just kept high passing stuff. But I really should not have done this. And if I were to make this song now, I would have gotten rid of this. But I'm just gonna leave it there for the sake of preserving the song in its original state, not messing up with any of it. So you've still got the underlying subwave tone of it, but then you've got all these harmonics that enrich the sound. So instead of this, which would barely be audible on, say, phone speakers or a laptop speaker, when you put all these harmonics on, it's like a pseudo acoustic effect where like you feel the bass a little bit more. Yeah, and even in those less bass heavy systems, you can still like feel a like pseudo bass, right? Because you have those harmonics. What do you have in the FX section of the sub? Not much. Just a compressor and a filter to low pass the whole thing. You know, to get rid of all the top end harmonics of the saw wave, I do that, and then a compressor to make sure that the bottom end does not phase much, that the low end stays within a very tight window of volume. Right? So as you can see here, it's trying to go very much up and down, and the compressor is going to prevent that from happening. It stays very consistent, and so I can mix with it safely. But then I have this razor layer, which is basically just a razor. And by the way, I should have changed this to 1500 to have more partials, because for this razor I did use the AU5 hack for more partials, but it looks like when I switched to the NVMe drive that I'm running on right now, when I reinstalled Windows, all those presets were lost. So I would have to redo that again, but I'm not gonna do it here, because you know I have to keep it within a window of time, because you know I gotta make dinner and like as soon as I'm done with this. So same thing. So then once again we arrive at like phrases 3 and 4 of the second half of this motif. So once again, a bit of a difference in the rhythm here. I'm going much faster to signal that the end of this phrase is coming, and there's another motif coming. And then the melodic break. which we've already established in the intro twice, actually. So since we've already established it, it feels familiar. And it's only, yeah, and it's only right to, you know, add it here. So here is the second half of the first drop, and it's definitely not the same. What is your processing chain for wubs? It varies from wub to wub. For example, for this racer here, I'm doing nothing but an EQ. Because the sample, well, it comes pretty much straight from the upcoming Hypernova pack, by the way. The sample will be in it. So yeah, the sample was already mostly processed. But let's say for this. Yeah, in fact, I've already gone through the sound, but again, some compression to reduce peaks, some disperser, frequency shifter in case I need to do some effects with it, because... Not yet. Here, for example. So you know, you might be doing, how much will Hypernova cost? The exact same as Supernova. And I will be doing a permanent price drop on Supernova, so that's going to be pretty cool. So now you can get both packs for less. Can you go over the layering for that melodic break area? Sure. Let's see. So what this has is some Xylent Superstar chords. I literally took these from like the Power Pack 1, right? Yeah. They've got some pretty nice Superstars. They're very clear, very bright. And then I have my layer, which is slightly darker sounding. And then I have some Virtual Riot Atmosphere samples here. And then some more Super Verb from me. Some more atmospheres. And this is a horn sample. So I've recorded this so I could use it as a bass fill layer. Right? So yeah, layering horns can actually be pretty cool. And now like three like filler sounds. Ooh, ew, ah. So what's happening here? First off, we've got a razor, which I've already gone over, and then this melodic layer. So it sounds, it's almost like if you were to use morph on these two sounds. I'm just layering them one over the other, but it would sound sort of similar. And then here I'm doing this is an AU5 Hyper Growl, by the way. I replicated it in Serum, and then I did this like gating pattern with Transgate, I believe. Without the Transgate, sounds like this. So we get that more stabby feeling to it. And then I've got this frequency shifter automation that's doing steps. I came up with this because that's the one that I thought sounded best. Let's see. So it's going over the frequencies that I liked the most about it, and I just went like, okay, let's do it like that. And then for this layer, just some stabbed Reese's, and then this is another layer of the Hyper Gouache, just done a little bit differently. But here, I wanted to make sure that this hit, not that, like this. I want to make sure that this hit was tonal to make the boom, right? Boom. So yeah, I really wanted to make the distinction there for that sound, so it could stand out and do the seventh on that. So it sounds as though there's an actual melody to the drop, which is a little bit unusual. And then some more glitch jams, and this is a resample of the Doom gem in Bejeweled Twist. So if you've ever played the game, there's this gem that shows up at a certain level in the classic mode that you cannot turn, and after a number of twists, it explodes, right? But then when it spawns in the map, it makes this really great sound. It like warns you of impending doom. It's like, whoa, watch the fuck out for this. All right, so I felt like adding this in because it made for a very good filler. So it's in a way it's warning you that, yeah, this drop is really heavy. Watch out for it. It's like, once again, I did add these bloops to make this part more tonal. So it's almost like it's doing this melody going. Awesome. It's not really saying awesome. It says loosum or loosing, just in a very American way. But it does sound like awesome because let's face it, it is awesome. And then for these comms, these are from a Supernova pack as well. But what I did was, I did the same thing I did with the Hypergrowl thing. I took the frequency shifter and I did steps. And I made sure they were just right. They were like just on the right frequency. So it would sound tonal once again. That's the 9th. This is the 5th. And this is the 7th. Which is, once again, the main motif of this. That's a little bit of a big move right there. So, yeah. That's a nice move, not gonna lie. So it's reminiscing the motif in a way that you might not even realize. And then just some filler vocals suddenly. It suddenly goes back, it calls back to the motif from the start of the drop. So it's like suddenly goes back. The full sample goes like this, I believe.
Suddenly everything was calm. They had come through safely. Before them stretched a giant universe.
There is some background music on the sample. I just had to remove it using the Isotope RX suite. That's not me talking. That's not me. RX is amazing. It's magic, dude. We used it at work to repair some audio, like some really damaged and very clipped audio, and it made it's just magic. Well, it's $9.99 for a reason. It fixes stuff that was previously unfixable. And while yes, the most optimal thing would still be to re-record the thing, at least you can fix it to some extent and make it half decent. Thing, and then we go into the breakdown with this like reverb swell once again, and then a sub drop to like calm down, and then it, you know, it winds down into the breakdown. Let's focus on the piano for a second. It's got some chords. Motif is there. And here once again, just doing some slight variations to fit the chord that it's currently playing. chords. Which, if you realize, it's the same chords that we used at the end of the verse. Now we're just using them in the piano instead. Once again, that motif. And some piano going up to put an end to the motif of some sort. And some layers. Superverb, deep pat, rees, and some super sauce to fill it up. The saws are made with serum, I believe. Let's see. Yes, they are. It's just a saw wave detuned with some high pass, and then some compression. It's like, it's about the simplest thing that you can do with this. Oh my god, the stream is broken. It's not really broken, it's just that my webcam is below the chat. There we go. What layers for pats? Superverb. A lot of them. They're all from Supernova. Superverb is the reverb atmospheric texture section of my Supernova sample pack. It has a name because yes. And some effects. Buildup. Hypernova will also have its own hyperverb section, which is gonna be a lot cooler than Superverb, so watch out for that, because it's got like more than half an hour worth of pulse stretched samples used as atmospheric layers in your super saw stacks. It's gonna be pretty cool. In fact, we showed this off last week on my stream, so if you want to go watch that and watch me work on the demo track for that sample pack, you can watch the VOD now on my Twitch channel. But let's not get into that right now. Is it okay to have 100 Hz and below in pads? If it's useful, yeah, why not? Like, if you want to use it and it sounds good, go for it. In this case, I just wanted to layer it with a bass pad that's here. Let me solo it. So once again, the detuned saw coming in real handy. But this time it's just the bass, so it makes it for this like really moving, really Reese-like bass. It's really good for like atmospheric stuff and this kind of sections. And then the rides to keep the rhythm going. Because I never want you to lose the notion of groove, of rhythm. I always want you to be like synced up, right? Like, I want you to be able to follow the tempo at any point in time. What we haven't talked about is the vocals. These are from Kara. And how I did the processing for this, it's actually a little bit more complex than I'd like, but without any effects, sounds like this. Sounds a little bit raw and not too well done. Someone is really enjoying the workshop right now. Pay attention. So first off, what's happening here, it's a chorus to detune things. We have a disperser, which adds this like pew pew nature to it. Another dimension. That's not really how it works, but it's hard to describe, not gonna lie. I'm gonna turn it on and off. So if we were to exaggerate it, let's copy the value so we don't lose it. Let's exaggerate it. So it adds like a tiny bit more punch. Another dimension. Let's just call back the value. Question 1. Follow the bouncing. Bass. Welcome to Feedback Hour. That's second hour of this stream. Blah blah blah. So we've also got some synths. And then some boom effects. With a clap for the added like crash-like effect. Right? Oh, we haven't finished reviewing the vocal bus. After the disperser, there's an OTT which does pretty much all of the job in making sure that it's as beefed up as possible, and these differences, the differences in loudness, get matched up. Of course, doing a compression this aggressive will always bring back out the low end, so we have to take care of that. So that's exactly what we are doing here. We're also going to cut some of the frequencies here. You know. And some free balance to regulate the volume. OTT on vocals. Well, it's more of an artistic effect. You're not really aiming for natural vocals here. You do want them to sound machine-like. So what gives? And then we've also got some frequency shifter for the later parts of the song where we do need them for, like, say, build-up effects. And then finally a side high pass on the EQ. So the vocals are still somewhat centered, at least until the end. Then, like, on the top end and the air, you can have all the stereo that you want. But, like, in this section, I do want it, like, the bottom mid end, I do want it to be very controlled and very centered. I did repitch some of this in New Tone. Normally it does not do this, but it can't be ours to find the original sample now. But yeah, it doesn't jump this low. I repitched that. And yeah, and then. Right, so that's it. Some cinematic drums. And then some whooshes. And then some impacts. So this is like getting a little bit more close to the cinematic side of things, which I've been getting more into. Definitely, as of recent, I've been working on a cinematic twist, like an orchestral infused twist to my style right now, and I think it's working out fairly well, especially for the storytelling part of my stuff. All right. So once again, some impacts, cinematic ambient stuff, very mysterious. basically, what is happening in this breakdown? First off, we got the lead. What I did for this is literally resample the guitar lead from one of AU5's packs. So I took a single note, I made it loop, right? So I did it with a crossfade here, so loop. Now I basically have an infinite loop of a lead that I can use and do whatever note I can with it. Are you using frequency shifter to make it vibrate? No, I am using this. This is a pitch LFO. So if you head into the automation part of the sampler, you find panning, volume, mod X, mod Y, and pitch. In pitch, you can set an LFO so that the sample will start off normal, but then after a certain time, it will start vibrating. So when you see a very long note, as you can see, it starts to vibrate a little bit after the note has begun playing. Could you do that with serum effects? I believe you can. In fact, I think I've done it before. And then for the second half of the lead, I just went full beans and went higher up. Right. Then for the piano, I did some of the same things that you'll find in the intro, like the expanding piano thing. But then I expanded a little bit on that. Little thing here. Reference to the No Limits theme. So yeah, all about recurring motifs. And then here what I did is two versions of the piano separating thing. One that is the same as the intro. But then I did another one which goes even longer and reaches a much higher note. In fact, this is like... How many hands would you need to play this? That's like a lot. It's like it goes full beans for the key change. That's a very temporary key change, as it only happens for a few bars, but it is there and it creates even more tension, right? So what's happening here is two subsequent offbeats. Ding, 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 right? So that's, in hindsight, what's happening right now. Speaking of AO5, I had a dream last night that Daly was my roommate. He kept cranking out like level 2s of music videos each day, and it was making me depressed. I saw that in the chat. I saw that on Facebook, and I was like, "Yep, this sounds reasonable." AU5 dreaming about not being God himself? Wow. Never heard of that. Totally unheard of. So again, it's like a ton of things. It goes like from the lowest note to pretty much the highest. It's dangerously close to the top. Whereas this is dangerously close to the bottom. So it covers pretty much the entire piano range, meaning you need at least like 4 people to play this chord. But I mean, if it works, doesn't it? And then the 808 has this very nice and playful bass line to it. So it does the same thing as a lead. So if we play with the metronome, dun, 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 dun. So like doing all these glides and arp-ish thing is really helps the bass sound a lot more interesting than if you just were to do right, by being more playful and with the notes that you use here. And then I gave it the super sauce. Shark spin. This would honestly be so much more fun with the soundboard on. But we're too far into the stream for that. Can't see the chat in the stream. Oh, that is right. Let's see if you can watch it now. Oh, I know why it is. It's because it's meant to like... Ah, there we go. Does it work now? Okay, yeah, I was on the wrong screens. Sorry for that. So in order for the chat to work, I needed to, you know, show... I need to be on the voice chat like channel in PC Discord. And I was on the live stream view, so that's why the chat was not visible. Some volume snares, by the way. Give volume a shout out for some awesome snares. Snare leak. So if we solo the drums buzz, it's gonna be fairly uneventful, not gonna lie. Because most of the rhythm is being done by the instruments. It's fairly uneventful, don't get me wrong. Most of the interesting stuff is reserved to the instrument. So now we expand on the melodic break to add a third chord, which is gonna bridge into the key change. C major, big, fat, thick, low octave bass, like low C, to really drive that deepness home. Let's get that. That's deep. And once again, the drop growls here once again. Just marking the rhythm, but also going to tease what's going to happen, which is more the same thing in a slightly different way. I'll show you later. And we've got some offbeat sonar plugs. They're very subtle. We've got, we reminisce to the vocals here. Don't hold me down. But now we have a slightly... We have a couple of more notes. New notes. Different notes. On this version. So what this is doing is C major, D neutral, which would be D without a third. I think this is doing D sus4, right? So it is D minor, but it does have a fourth. So it's basically D pentatonic. and we go back to C sharp major, or D flat major in this case. And then this is a perfect chance to switch from F minor, which is the key that we've always been in, to F major. So yeah, you will find these minor to majors switches very common in my music because I just love them. So we're basically using a modulation phrase here to change, to switch from F minor to F major. We're just passing through some chords in the meantime. Hello, Sharks. So now we are going to repeat the same phrase, just with, so instead of words, now it's a phrase. Now it's like ad-libs and ahs and oohs. And this is what the frequency shifter in the vocals was for, to create this build-up effect. That's what the effect was for here. So as you can see, we are starting the same way that we started the second half of the first drop. But now we have a little bit of a high pass there and no drums, so it's meant to be more like a fake out. Because now we have a pride snare and the big fat sidetrans drop. Alright, so what is happening here? First off, we've got the same razor, but now we've got this. Some hyper growl layers from this. I resampled them and I turned them into this. And then this. Some atmosphere layers. And then I believe these are color guns. No, this is more glitch jam. For like some more noisy hits. And the reason why I did these off beat is so that it would make for this like feeling. Right? So it made for this like call and response effect. Like it's really quick. And then here I kept switching. So it would be at least a little bit different. Because I hate repetition, and that was a random piano note. And then the rest is done by the sub. And a sidetrans plug that I have here in Serum. This is the same plug that I used for Prism, for the second drop of Prism with Sharks. So yeah, I used the same thing. This is just a saw wave with a ton of processing. Without the processing, it sounds like this. That's much more saw-like. But with a disperser, an EQ to strengthen up the air, a D Blue Crusher. Now it sounds much closer. Can you give away the sub preset? No. Saturator to just a tiny little bit of a drive and then some stereo turbo. So it like separates a little bit, right? Some OTT to strengthen it once more. Some EQ for a tiny bit more of the like, you know, for more of the crushed, what's being done by the big crusher. It's just going to add this like iron bit to it, right? And that's what's happening. And I'm going to accentuate a tiny bit of that. And then finally a soft clipper so it doesn't go like too far into the red. Being limited, nice and steady, more or less about 0. I'm going to bring it back down anyway, but like later on in the mastering process. So yeah, all of that together. it makes for this like very thick. Once again, the same saw bridges. The motif from the beginning is also present here. Kicks from Supernova. Pretty cool. Then some hi-hats, which will also give it like some more punch. And this last hat, it helps with some of the tail. So it's like tss, and that like tss, the bright tail there, it gives it a little bit more tail end to the plug. Without the hat, it sounds ever so slightly more empty. And here what I'm doing is just a 4 on the floor version of the same melodic break with some arps. I'm using the noisy lead as an arp in this case. And here I'm driving up the frequency shifter, so it makes for this like going up sound. Right, and then with the uplifter, it helps you go even further up. And then this break growl is just the 206 Rees growl. Let's see. And with some frequency shifter and some LFOing. So that's just the LFO. You add in this. That's really what makes the frequency shifted sound to it. Meow. And then just a fade and pad. So you know. This would basically be the exact same part as the second half of the drop, just with some variations on the groove. Doom, doom, doom. So it does have some slight variations in comparison to the first part, so it doesn't feel completely the same. It doesn't feel like a total copy-paste. The glitch jam here is different. And here, instead of being a suddenly, there's just nothing. There's just a big sub swell to bridge into the next part. So it falls back down into the boom. Same thing. This chord, I made it longer than usual because it's meant to bridge into the outro. And this is another key change because the song actually ends in C major. It doesn't end in F major. So it's like this this happy ending, but at the same time you don't really expect it because it's in a completely it's in a different key, right? And you're not really expecting, but you're okay with it because it sounds really establishing and like you really drove the point home. Like it makes it feel like at the start you like yeah. At the start, you were never home. You were never home in the first place, right? So I had these pads that I also resampled straight out of Bejeweled Twist, and I just pulse stretched them, and I repitched them. So without the pitch, it sounds like this. It's just the C major version, right? So I'm using both the pitched and the non-pitched version. because, you know. And then this chord is a little bit longer. Right. And then we have some vocals, which are just like one line, one vocal line. But then we do add some more. So it's like the fifth, the third, and the fundamental. And then the final chord. Then the piano outro, it does its job of repeating the motif one final time, but in major form and with that beautiful minor seventh. So where the original motif was this, it doesn't really drive the point home. Like it's not really establishing. It's almost like we are still kind of tense, but by doing the major version of it, it's almost like this Mixolydian form of it, which is like, oh, we're home. And we didn't even know that this was our home, right? And if you add this deep pad on it, it's just this like, yes, big deep pad. So Displace 2 when? I don't know. I don't think there will be a Displace 2. I think the song's already pretty good. I'm not thinking of one-upping this. Because second parts are not often too good. So yeah, that was the general breakdown of Displace. And so like I said, at some point in this breakdown, this track was mostly done during the final stages of lockdown. So you can see that here in the master, I'm still using my old mastering method of an imager that's going into a limiter. That's not really doing anything. It's not going to limit or drive the gain up. It's just to brick wall everything to 0. Now, I don't master like this anymore. For one, I no longer use imager. Now I use a site high pass with an EQ called Infinity EQ by Slate Digital. It looks pretty cool, but it also sounds really good. I would say it's arguably better than Pro Q, even though it lacks the dynamic EQ features. But then again, you can already do that with something like Pro MB, which works better for that sort of stuff. So now, how I do mastering is I use no imager. I use a site high pass, and I make sure that on the sidechain bus, so on the instruments bus, before it reaches the master, all of the stuff, it sits at about -6 to -9 dB. So then on the limiter, I can drive up the gain and get because that's where the color is. That's where the substance, the warmth that the plugin adds is, right? And anyway, in any case, I usually turn the master chain off on the master when I'm done, so I can master the song on a separate project. And actually, I think I do have a separate mastering project for this song, because I did do a remaster of it this year, to get it ready for the EP, because I needed to refresh the song a little. So how about I show you that? And that'll be the end of this breakdown. So yeah, that's it. Astral Realm EP comes out this Friday. The single Displace is out now already, so go listen to it. Show Rushdown some love for just for continuing to believe in my project. And yeah, let's open the Displace mastering project, and that's going to be the end of it. So you'll see that the mastering project does not have much, but it also contains the transition for the next song. So yeah, I usually do that after the fact, because when I was working on the song, I didn't even know that it was going to make it into an EP. So I didn't make it with the transition. But in the mastering part of it, because I did this master in like very recently. It was like March 2021. So just a couple months ago. By that time, the EP was already was taking shape. and I already had the transition ready. So really, what's happening here? It's I just exported the song with the limiter off, with the imager off, with all of the effects off, right? And so what I did was the following: I took some soothe to lessen some of the more more annoying mid-end to mid-high frequencies. So like really mud and trash that you don't really need. Like that'll be the best way to describe it from my point of view. So, you know, to get that out of the way. And we've got some EQ that's doing some general tone shaping once again. In fact, let's turn everything off so we can see what each thing does. So equilibrium. This is the EQ that I use for mastering. Right? Paul, look on your left real quick. Got it. Right, so what I'm doing is a very like extremely slight dip on 200 hertz. And now, this might not be noticeable here, but what happens is that when you turn on the limiter, all these tweaks get they get amplified a little bit by the fact that you're driving the gain up. So it might be minus 0.3 here, but by then it might get a little bit amplified by the gain on the limiter. So that's why I'm doing so little, because if I do a tiny bit more, it might sound great on the pre-master, but when you turn on the limiter, it might be a little bit missing because you're amplifying that difference because you're turning the gain up, right? And then I'm doing a dip on the 2Ks because I believe that simply isn't cool. You don't want that in your master. And then some more dips in the 7Ks. A really dirty and problematic area too. I did like minus 0.8. And then a side boost up so it could sound brighter without necessarily making it too harsh. That's why I'm doing it on the side and not on the stereo. Without it, it's just that tiny little bit brighter. And then when you turn on the limiter, all these things become amplified. And of course, what I'm doing here is that I'm going to drive up the gain, and then I'm going to decrease the output gain to something that's just below 0 because of something called true peak. When you slam your things at 0, the digital samples may not be clipping, but when your interface does the digital to analog thing again, it draws the line in between the samples. And if there are two samples that are right at 0, when the line does this, it actually does go over 0. The analog estimate, the analog result of the conversion from digital to analog, that's called true peak. And in order to prevent that, you just have to turn it just below 0. So it will still sound pretty much the same. You're not going to miss out on any loudness just by turning it down like minus 0.1. Like who even cares about that? Nobody's going to hear the difference between 0 and minus 0.1. But you will be saving on those clips. Or you can turn true peak limiting on the inside of Ozone. Yeah, that's also a possibility. I know that Pro L, for example, does support true peak limiting as well. It's right here, true peak limiting, and you can also set the out level to whatever dBTP level that you want. So and then we just have meters for loudness. I made sure that it sits at about minus 6 to minus 5 LUFS. I don't like to slam my to squeeze my sound that much. I like to keep it a little bit more a little bit on the conservative side, because I know that that way the dynamics will be a lot more clean. Because if I drove it up even slightly more, it's already doing some nasty things, right? So we don't want that. We'll keep it at the level where it's just about to saturate, but not quite. And then finally bitter to check for sample and intersample clip, which is the true peak thing I told you about. If nothing shows up here, that means you're good. This thing is free, by the way, and it's super informative. And anyway, do you guys want to hear the as a sort of sneak peek? Do you guys want to hear the transition from Displace to enhance? Here it is. It's not too much. It's just like 2 notes, but it does do the job. There's an extra chord here. And that's what heads into the next track, Enhance, which will be out this Friday, along with the whole EP. Post your links in chat here at the end. All right, let's do it. So guys, that was the end of the Displace breakdown. I hope y'all enjoyed it and found it informative and useful. Here are some of my links. I'll put them up real quick. I just need to copy them. My SoundCloud, it's my Spotify. Well, I gotta wait 10 seconds because of slow mode. Who set this channel up? All right. Self-promo ban. And now I will link you all to my general link gate, which is iammod.us, which is just a gate to all of my socials. So you can access all of my socials from that single link, iammod.us. So yeah, guys, if there's anything else that you want me to explain, fire ahead. If not, we are done. I get to have dinner. And needless to say, thank you all so much for joining. Thank you all so much for listening. And I will see you this Saturday live on stream. That's because I won't be doing a stream this Friday. There will be no Friday chill. That's because I'm releasing the EP, right? So you got enough. You got enough modus that day. But on Saturday we will be back. And we will do a breakdown of the Astral Realm, the title track for the EP, which is a collab, by the way, with one of the people that are here in this breakdown right now. It's Agente, or Agent 001, or you want to say it my way or his way. He's gonna be like, "Oh, I finally said it the right way." So yeah, I collabed with him for the absolutely amazing song that is the title track, the Astral Realm. Whole EP out this Friday once again, in case I'm not enough of a broken record right now. Once again, thank you all so much for joining. I've been Paul, aka Modus, and I'll see you around.